Victoria Goode was 27, gorgeous, and grinding. The Oklahoma native had already touched the edge of her dreams. She'd walked runways, appeared in real fashion magazines, and was just one big booking away from breaking through. But modeling is a fickle business, and when the gigs slowed down, so did the money. Victoria found herself in a homeless shelter, not because she lacked talent, but because talent doesn't always pay on time. Still, she kept pushing, kept creating, kept showing up in front of the camera with that same model glow, even if the background was a shelter. And then there was Charmaine Crossman. Crossman was 42, from Jamaica, full-time content creator in her head, part-time chaos agent in real life. She spent her days inside that shelter filming unwatchable TikToks, stiff dances, awkward lip syncs, and blank stares that somehow made even the devil feel secondhand embarrassment. By night, she blasted music no one asked for and complained nonstop about her roommate doing the exact same thing, filming content. The difference? Victoria was getting paid. Charmaine was just playing pretend with a ring light and a fragile ego. And watching Victoria succeed from the same top bunk she used to film her flop videos, it was more than she could take. Because when your whole identity is built on playing pretend, nothing hurts more than watching the girl across the room live the life you're faking. And eventually, Charmaine didn't just get jealous, she got dangerous. Welcome to the American Crime Femicide channel. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for future uploads. Victoria Goode came to New York City with a suitcase, a promise, and the kind of face that stops people in their tracks. Born October 14, 1995, in Oklahoma City, Victoria wasn't just raised right, she was raised ready. Her mother was a homemaker with a soft heart and sharp instincts. Her father, a former army man, ran the house with love, order, and that don't play with me energy only military dads can perfect. Her upbringing was tight-knit, grounded, and aspirational, the kind of home where dreams weren't just encouraged, they were expected. And Victoria, she dreamed in fabric and flashbulbs. She wasn't one of those girls who randomly stumbled into modeling because someone at Walmart said she had nice cheekbones. No, Victoria had vision. By middle school, she was designing custom backpacks out of Cap'n Crunch boxes. She wasn't just different, she owned it. People noticed her, followed her energy, admired her creativity. Her family didn't try to stifle it. They told her to keep going. And she did. After graduating from John Marshall High School in 2014, Victoria enrolled in Redlands Community College with plans to major in psychology. But grief has a way of rerouting destinies. When her beloved brother passed away, she made him a promise she would become a model. A real one, not the kind who does club flyers and Fashion Nova hauls. She meant international runways, magazine covers, walking beside supermodels whose names come with commas. So she booked a flight to New York. Because if you're going to chase your dream, you might as well chase it in heels across Manhattan pavement. Victoria started locally, signing with Blink Modeling Agency in Oklahoma City. She got some runway experience, built her portfolio, and started submitting it to every agency in New York that would accept an email. There were a lot of no's, especially during Fashion Week, but she didn't take rejection personally. She took it as fuel. Her mother kept reminding her, it only takes one yes. And Victoria believed that. She got close friends in the industry who vouched for her, mentored her, helped her secure spots at private castings. She walked confidently, naturally, and with a look that couldn't be taught. She was tall, commanding, and unforgettable. Her energy was high fashion. She wasn't some girl hoping to be famous. She was working for it. To support herself, Victoria worked at Forever 21 styling mannequins and arranging window displays. It was retail by day, runways by night. She went from unpaid fittings to paid appearances, from walking small designer shows to locking in bigger brands. And by fall of 2022, Victoria wasn't just walking, she was witness. That season, she walked for Vogue Mexico. Not just a cameo, not a background face. She was featured, photographed, credited. This wasn't hype. This was her arrival. Her resume was finally starting to look like the future she had imagined years ago back in Oklahoma.
At the end.
But even in that moment of victory, reality had hands. Modeling doesn't come with dental, or a 401k, or guaranteed rent. You can be in Vogue one day and applying for public housing the next. And Victoria was experiencing the in-between, big career energy with small checks that couldn't keep up with New York City's rent insanity. Then came COVID. The pandemic hit the country hard, but it beat the brakes off New York. The city shut down. Castings disappeared. Runways went digital or died entirely. Victoria, ever resilient, took a job with Delta Airlines to survive. She kept one foot on the ground and one foot in fashion. Because even when everything was falling apart, she refused to let go of her dream. In October 2022, she entered the Project Renewal New Providence Women's Shelter. Not because she gave up, but because she was playing the long game. She needed housing support so she could keep her eyes on the prize. She was hoping to win the housing lottery, land an affordable apartment, and stay in the city that had given her so much promise. But instead of support, she got sabotage because Victoria's bunkmate in that shelter wasn't just unstable. She was actively auditioning to be a horror story. Charmaine was troubled and deeply disturbed. She had no job, no prospects, and no business being around other people. But she had two things, a TikTok account and a martyr complex. Charmaine fancied herself a spiritualist, a content creator, and, depending on the hour, a former model trapped by fate. In reality, she was a chronically bitter, internet-dependent chaos merchant with no rhythm, no clan, and no audience. Her videos were a disturbing cocktail of slow-motion twerking, blank stares, demonic mumbling, and poor lighting. They were the kind of content that made you wonder if the camera should file a restraining order. She filmed everywhere, on the bed, on the floor, in the mirror, sometimes in nothing but vibes and a short shorts. Her dances were stiff. Her transitions were cursed. Her prayers were suspicious. She claimed to walk with spirits, but let's be honest, with spirits. Because nobody peaceful was taking credit for this woman. By day, she filmed nonsense. By night, she blasted music, muttered to herself, and turned the shelter room into a haunted rave. But when Victoria dared to play her own music or film anything of her own with actual talent, suddenly Charmaine had a problem. Why? Because while Charmaine was pretending to be a star, Victoria actually was one. That contrast was killing Charmaine slowly. Victoria didn't just model, she modeled well. She got gigs. She made connections. She appeared in real shows and had real success. Meanwhile, Charmaine was 42 years old, unemployed, unhoused, and recording TikToks with 2 likes and 3 demons watching from the corner. Charmaine told anyone who would listen that she could have been a model too, if life had been fair, if she'd arrived in America sooner, if the universe wasn't so against her. But the truth was simple. She wasn't Victoria. She didn't have the look, the discipline, or the light. And watching that light shine from the same bunk bed across the room, that was too much. So she started unraveling. Victoria began to sense it. She asked staff for help, told people her roommate was unstable, that she didn't feel safe, that the energy was getting darker. But her concerns were brushed off. Shelters are overloaded, underfunded, and often blind to danger until it's bleeding in the hallway. On November 16, 2022, Charmaine posted a TikTok holding an animated knife. A sick little joke, a manifestation maybe, or a preview. And exactly 1 month later, she stopped pretending. On December 16, 2022, Victoria had what should have been a normal day. She left for the day, ran errands, booked castings, breathed air. She came back to the shelter that evening, likely exhausted, and just wanted some peace. Some music. A moment to herself. Charmaine, allegedly deep into one of her demonic prayer sessions, was bothered by the sound. Because of course she was. Loud music when she's filming. Fine. Loud music when Victoria's listening. Unacceptable. Charmaine complained to shelter staff, then came back into the room with a can of air freshener and started spraying it in Victoria's face. Not just her, but also a visiting friend. When Victoria got up to leave, Charmaine followed. And then she pulled the knife. She stabbed Victoria repeatedly in the chest, in the jugular, in the eye. She chased her down the hallway, slicing and slashing like she thought she was starring in her own slasher film. Victoria collapsed, bleeding to death on the shelter floor.
Those experiencing homelessness who live inside heard the commotion around 10 o'clock.
All I heard was screaming, and I got up, walked to the door, and the girl was on the floor in front of my door, stabbed up.
Her neighbor was stabbed multiple times on the 6th floor of the Project Renewal shelter. She and other residents rushed to her side.
I gave out gloves, that was it. But she was on the floor, bleeding to death.
Charmaine? She walked back into the room, packed a bag, and left. Like a shift had ended. A knife wrapped in a white towel was later found in a trash can nearby. 4 days later, Crossman turned herself in, still wearing the blood. No apology, just delusion and entitlement. Goode was pronounced dead at Bellevue Hospital. Her chest wound severed an artery. It was over before it even made sense. The woman who had walked for Vogue Mexico, worked with Adidas and Fendi, survived the pandemic, held down a job at Delta, and honored a promise to her brother was gone. Her brother Damon King filed a lawsuit against the city and Project Renewal, accusing them of negligence, carelessness, and failure to act on known danger. The documents say it clearly. They knew about Charmaine's instability, about her previous incidents, about Victoria's pleas for help, and they did nothing. They let a woman with an unstable history, violent tendencies, and a fantasy world built on social media delusions stay in a room with a vulnerable, working, living woman who was just trying to survive. The lawsuit accuses them of failing to properly screen residents, failing to respond to warnings, and failing to provide a safe environment. And it's true. Victoria didn't die because of bad luck. She didn't die because of poverty. She died because a violent, jealous, mentally unwell woman was allowed to orbit her unchecked. Charmaine will likely claim insanity. It's easier to plead crazy than to admit you're bitter and evil. It's easier to say the devil made you do it than to admit you couldn't stand watching someone win while you stayed losing. But the real insanity is how the city let this happen. How a woman with Vogue credentials could end up murdered by someone with a cracked phone camera and a vendetta. Victoria didn't come to New York to be famous. She came to work. She came to create, to elevate, to keep a promise. And instead, she got reduced to a headline because someone's envy turned homicidal. This isn't just a tragic story. It's a warning. Not everyone in the shelter is harmless. Not everyone in need is safe to be around. And not every jealous stare is just about insecurity. Some people really can't take watching you shine. Victoria was light, and Charmaine, she was the shadow that snuffed it out. Victoria rose from a close-knit family in Oklahoma with nothing but talent, ambition, and a promise to keep. She built her career brick by brick, walking runways, styling mannequins, flying coast to coast for castings, and eventually making her mark in Vogue Mexico. She came to New York not for fame, but for purpose, to honor her late brother's dying wish and become everything they both dreamed she'd be. But when the pandemic stole opportunities and rent grew out of reach, she chose survival in the city over comfort at home. She stayed. She fought. She believed her breakthrough was near. Instead, she found herself in a shelter with a woman whose jealousy grew more dangerous with each day. A woman who turned her resentment into violence and snatched Victoria's life before she ever reached her full light. Her death left a family shattered, a lawsuit pending, and a city once full of promise now stained with silence. Maybe going back home would have saved her, but ambition makes you brave. Promises make you stay. And Victoria stayed. To her grieving family, friends, and supporters, may her memory be a blessing. Rest in peace, Victoria Goode. You deserve so much more.